Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is CraftyRia. I'm glad you're here, and if you're a new subscriber, welcome, and I'm glad you've subscribed. I saw that there were some new ones coming in and I want to just welcome you. Today I'm going to make a couple of recycled cards and tags out of these two Christmas cards. It's one of my favorite things to do. These are Christmas cards that were sent to someone and they're already signed on the inside. But instead of throwing them away, I like to recycle them into new things. So what I usually do is use this A2 size card base. It is 5.5 by 4 1/4. It is a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock cut in half and folded in half. So I have one and I made into two card bases that we're going to use for this project today. So in order to see what parts of the card that I want to cut out to make the card and the tag, I'm going to use my handy dandy template. There's another video that shows you how I came up with this template. The dark line on the edge is the 5 1/4 by 4.5 or 4 1/4 by 5.5 size, and then the two inner pieces are what you would cut it down if you're going to mat it. I'm going to use the smallest measurement on this because I want to have a mat. So for this card, it is not tall enough to do the portrait view, so we're going to do landscape view. And I'm going to take this card and see where I'm going to line it up to make my new card. And I want to leave enough room over here to cut out a tag. So if I line up the most inner line here, I can see that this edge here it's going to cut off right there, and that will be really pretty for a card front. And then you would have that left over for a tag, a gift tag. And I think that'll work fine. And then on this one, I think, yes, it will be tall enough to go the portrait view. So I want to include the whole church, so I'm going to have it just to the very end of this church. And then it's going to cut off just part of this tree. So it'll be from like there to about there. And that'll be the front of this card. And that looks pretty good. And then the tag will be about like that. So that'll work pretty nice as well. All right. So we can start with this. We might as well start with this one since I'm already holding it. I'm going to first cut the back off. I know the weather's so nice out. It's June, and here we are making cards for Christmas. So I'm going to go ahead and just eyeball it, and I'm going to make my cut just on the other side of that church because that's where I know I want it to be. Okay. There we go. And this is what's going to make my tag. I think that looks pretty good. I'll set that aside and we'll make the tag in a few minutes. And then I have this. I need to trim off part of this. So if my card is 5 1/4, 5.5 by 4 1/4, the long way, I don't have a choice. It's going to be about 4 7/8 tall. And then I want to make it, there's 4 1/4. Let me try it at, I'm going to try it just at 4 real quick and see what it looks like on the card. Okay, and on this card then I have a lot more on the top and the bottom than I do on the side. So I'm gonna go in another 1/4 of an inch. So I'm gonna do it at 3 3/4. That's what I thought, but I wanted to double check. It's better to take off just a little bit at a time rather than too much. You can always take more off, but you can't put it back. Okay, and that looks a lot more centered. Okay. So for this, I do want to mat the back of it, and I picked out some of these blue papers because I want to have something to mat the tag on as well. And I picked up this blue scrap. I thought that was a pretty good size for a tag the way it was. I'll have to trim this down. But I thought this one looked really good on this blue. The two blues don't match exactly, but it is close enough. So I'm going to cut this down to 5 1/4. I better do 5 3/8. Yeah. By 4 1/8. And that way it is just 1/8 of an inch smaller than the card base. And that gives just a little bit of white on the edge. Okay, I kind of like that. Normally I might have made it a little bit bigger, but I was restricted with the height because that was the size of the card. Excuse me. All right, so let's go ahead and decorate the card. Actually, maybe I'll cut this piece out as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just use this whole piece the way it is. It is just over 2 1/2 by almost 5. So I'm going to cut the length of this to 4 3/4. And I think I'll cut the 1/4 inch off the bottom. Yep, and then I said this was 2 1/2, so I'm going to cut this to just a little less than 2 1/2. Okay, it's my real fancy measurements here. There we go. All right, so then that's matted on that, and that's how that's going to work. So I'll set that aside. I have all my cutting done for this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll mat this piece down first. I have my handy dandy tape runner. You don't have to have a fancy tape runner. You can use a glue stick or liquid glue or double-sided adhesive from the Dollar Tree. It doesn't really matter. When I line up my cards, you've probably heard me say it a million times, I'm going to line up the opposite corners. And that way I know that the whole thing is centered. If I get two corners, the opposite corners lined up, then I know that the whole thing is going to be centered. And on this piece, I want to add an embellishment down here since there's a lot of kind of open space. So I did go through my ribbons. I got 2 skinny ribbons for the tags. And then I got a couple of fat ribbons for this. I really like the way this silver looks with it. I also got this. I got this at a yard sale that I went to with my BFF Valerie. If you're out there, Valerie, hello. This is one of the ribbons I got from that big ribbon bin. And then I have that. But I think I like the way, as much as I love this new ribbon. This was brand new, by the way. I don't remember what I paid for it. A quarter? 50 cents? I don't know. But it was brand new. I took the, you know, the packaging off of it so I could use it easy on the video. I think I'm going to use this. So I have my cutting scissors. I have 2 little scissors that I always keep handy. I have my cutter bees, which I use for cutting paper and cardstock, and they take a beating. And then I have my fabric scissors that I use for cutting ribbon. So I'm going to go ahead and put that like that. I'm going to run a piece of this tape runner down the front just to help hold it down. You don't, they make all kinds of ribbon tape and all that. You don't really need anything fancy. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my tape runner. And what I do with this is I run it from the card all the way off to the edge of the ribbon. That way you have a double layer of adhesive. So when you fold your ribbon back, it holds really well. And this ribbon, this is actually from packaging. I bought a pair of pajamas at Walmart, and this was tied around them in a fancy, you know, bow. So I went ahead and took it off, and I've used it on quite a few crafts. I love to recycle whenever I can. All right, there we go, got that. And I think that looks good, but it needs a little embellishment. I have these stickers from the Dollar Tree, and these are what I have left over. I can't wait for Christmas again so I can get more. I could put a snowman, but I think I like the snowflakes. I have to decide which size snowflake. That one's too big. I think I'll just go with one of these little snowflakes. Actually, I'll hold off on that. Let me glue this down first. And I always put my adhesive on top of the ribbon that I have folded over, just to make sure it adheres itself down really well. And then I put some on the inside of it there on the cardstock. That way it just sticks down really well and doesn't fall apart. And again, I'm going to line up opposite corners and push it down. Get my little embellishment. There we go. So that card is done. The card itself already had a lot of embellishing on it. It has a lot of glitter. That's the way it came. So I thought I would let the card do the work, and I don't have to do so much to it. So let's go ahead and assemble the tag. Actually, maybe I'll do both tags together because I want to stamp them. So I'll put this aside and we'll come back to it. And let's go ahead and do the other card. So for this card, we decided it had to be the landscape view. And I want as much left over as I can on this side for the tag because we're going to run out of room. So I'll go ahead and utilize this very edge as one edge of my card. And I won't be needing this silver edge, so I will cut that off. So I'm going to cut it right up to that line. And I will cut the bottom off the same way. Now if you wanted to, you could save these little silver strips for something, but I probably am not going to be doing that. And I want to inspect the edge and make sure it's a nice clean edge. Sometimes the edges of the cards will have, you know, dents in them, and you don't want to put that on your new card. But this one's pretty good, so I will leave it. So I want to see, I have plenty of room, so I can trim this down to however I want. So I'm going to trim 1/4 of an inch off each side. So we have 5 1/4, or 5 1/2, I'm sorry. So we're going to do 5 1/4 on this. And this leftover piece is going to be for my tag. And then in this direction, the card is 4 1/4, so I want to cut it to 4. Which I've learned on this trimmer, it's right to the very edge. And I took the piece off the bottom since there was a lot of white space on the bottom. There we go. And I want to use this silver paper. It's just a silver metallic paper from Die Cuts with a View. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the smaller dimension this way, which is going to be 4 1/4. No, 4 1/8. The card is 4 1/4, so this is 4 1/8. I don't know why I can't do math today. And then it's 5 3/8. I should write myself a cheat sheet so I know it when I say it, so you guys don't catch me off guard. Let's see, that gives it just a little bit of a silver border on that. And I think that looks kind of good. I'm going to take a sliver more off this card just so a little bit more of that silver will show. I'll take a sliver off the bottom since it's just white down there. And I'm really not doing anything to embellish the front of this card. It already, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, it is full of glitter. And then we have the silver that it's going to be on, so I think that's pretty, you know, pretty blinged up by itself. I don't think it really needs any extra bling. So I'll go ahead and attach everything. I know one of my other videos, one of my last videos, I had everything pre-cut before the video. Let me know what you like better, if you like me to cut them on film so you can see how it's done, or if you'd rather have me have it all ready to go and not take the time to watch me cut it. All right. There, so we have that card. It's kind of simple looking, but I think it's really pretty because it's already very much glittered up. I could add that green Christmas tree out front, but I think then it'll take away from the serenity of it. So I think I'll leave it alone. And then we have this piece, which is going to be for the tag. Let me see. I think I'm going to trim this down a little so I can just cut a piece of this silver off this way. Or I could just mount it on white. I did grab a piece of white. I might just mount it on white. because the backing of this is almost, it's not quite glossy, but it's almost like a satin, and I'm not sure how it will take the ink. This is just regular white, non-fancy scrap of cardstock. So when I have something like this that I don't want to measure at all, I do want to measure it because I want to punch it. So I'm going to take a handy dandy little pencil and mark on here about where I want to cut it. And then, let's take my pencil mark away. And I will mark it over here, kind of where I want to cut it. Nothing's perfect, it's all just kind of willy-nilly. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so I have my 2 tags ready to go. And they're both different sizes, but that's okay because they're not going to be on the same package, so nobody's going to know. So for the tags, I have these 2 stamps that say to and from. This one is from Anita's, and this one I got at a yard sale. She was selling Stampin' Up, so I don't know if it's from Stampin' Up or not. It's not marked with anything, but I thought that would be good for the big one. And I think I'll use this little one for this one. And I also have this corner chomper, or the Crop-a-dile corner chomper. I just got this for Christmas and I hardly ever use it, so I definitely want to use it. You don't have to use this to make your tags. You can just cut the corners with a scissor, but I think this is kind of a fun tool. I love tools. So you open it up like that, and you have a large angle and a small angle. And I'm going to use the large angle, and I'm going to punch the top 2 corners. There you go. And that's what it does. It just takes the 2 corners off. Kind of neat. And then you can line them up like that, and you have yourself a tag. You can also take a pair of scissors and just trim the edge, and then trim that, line it up like that and trim that edge, and then flip it over, and trim both of them. That way they're equal. This is the large angle again. This is really a cool tool. Okay. All right, so I'm all stamped up, or punched up. Now I want to stamp. And I want to stamp, I think, before I put them together, just in case I goof up on the stamp. I have my VersaFine ink, which I love. The only problem with this ink is that it stays wet for a little while. So what I think is the back of this one, I'm going to go ahead and stamp with my to from tag. Doesn't really matter where I put it. There we go. It's not perfect, so I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to stamp it again. See if I can get it better. That stamp is a little crooked. Okay. So I think I'll keep that one, and I will cover up that side. And I've never used this other one, so I want to see how it stamps first. I've never used this one. It's brand new. Sometimes it's a good idea to condition your stamps as well. There we go. That's what that one looks like. Kind of cool. There we go. That one worked out really well. That stamp's really nice. And then I'll do that. I will let those dry a little bit. Meanwhile, I will stamp the inside of my card. I have this other stamp that says, may all the joys of the season be yours. And this one is, doesn't say who it's by. Made in USA, or Design in USA, Made in Taiwan, PSX 2001. I don't know where I got this. I think Big Lots. It's a really heavy wood block. It's a nice stamp, and I have gotten so much mileage out of this stamp. And it almost always stamps perfectly. It's very nice. I'm going to set that aside, kind of open to let it dry. This VersaFine does great for images, but sometimes it takes a few minutes to dry. And then I'll set that aside. And I always stamp the back of my work with this stamp. It says handmade, especially for you, by Ria. That's me. And it was from this Paper Angel. I don't know if they're still in business. I do have a friend that makes personalized stamps. Bossy Jossie. She does a great job. She's made other personalized stamps for me for various businesses. And I always take, when I stamp the back of the card, I don't want it to bleed through to the other side at all. So when I stamp it on here, I stamp it off on a scrap paper first. And then I do a second generation stamp, so it's not as dark. So it doesn't really bleed through to the other side. I have a bunch of different colored stamp pads that I usually will match to the card, and I do a whole bunch at once. Alright, so we have this one here to put together. And I'm not going to really do a whole lot of embellishing on these tags because most of the time with gift tags, they just get thrown away with the wrapping paper. So I'm really not going to do a whole lot to them. I have just a regular hole punch, you know, from an old school regular round hole punch, a big one. And I just punch a hole in the top. Nothing fancy there. And then I will punch this one. I must have had that hole punch for 100 years. And I have this ribbon. I got this at we used to call it the junk store. I can't think of the name of the place. My cousin Jennifer would know what the junk store is. Oh, I can't remember. I think it was 50 cents. That says 50 cents. I may have paid less than 50 cents for it. And then I just take it and fold it in half, feed it through the hole like that. There. And then I'm just going to cut these at an angle. And then there's one tag done. And then I liked this darker blue to go with this one. And this is another spool of ribbon I've had as long as I can remember. I don't use the thin ribbon very much except for tags, really. Okay, then I have that cut. And actually, I think I will embellish the fronts of these just for fun. I have these blue snowmen, and I think I'll just stick one of those on here. And then I think I'll just put maybe a snowflake, or how about one of these deer? Put this deer on here. Reindeer. There we go. And that just adds a little extra cuteness to it. So we have a card and a tag that coordinate. So you could give someone the card and put their tag on their gift, or you can send the tag in with it when you send the card, so you're kind of sending someone a little bit of a gift. It's more than just a card. And then we have this one here that matches as well. And you could do the same thing, use the tag on a gift, give them the card, or just put the tag inside and send it to them as a Christmas card. It doesn't really make it too thick, as long as you keep your embellishments on your tags pretty low. It's not that bad. So if I'm going to do that, I'm not going to do a whole lot of thick embellishments on the card or the tag, because you want it thin enough to go through the mail. So there we go. We have 2 sets made out of 2 recycled Christmas cards. All right. Well, leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. And give this a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because you know I really like that. It helps my channel. I'm trying to grow my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Meanwhile, get crafting.